Is up, jabronis? JJ back here with Coop Dog, Jason Paglia. Some call him Keg. Talking a little NASCAR. Boys, it was an interesting week last week, to say the least. I will be honest. If there's a guy I felt like I've gotten right most of this year, it's been Ross Chastain in relation to him being and not being in optimals. His little accident last week, for the first time, me playing him at overweight, just felt like a kick in the nuts. I mean, I fade this guy on every week because he's never in the optimals. And the week where I'm like, damn, this is actually a really good spot to play him. He's in first. He's got laps led. And he started in 18th, I think, right? He started from the middle of the pack. Was feeling really good. And then, of course, the one time I'm overweight on him is the one time he bites the bullet with an accident. The guy's been running so pure all season. And of course, that's the race where he gets into an accident. How'd you guys do last week? Because for me, that was costly. I actually only lost, I think I lost 1,500 out of 5K of my entries, which, yeah, of course, it's not good by any means. But I felt like it could have been a lot worse because I was super overweight on Chastain. Now, granted, I was overweight on other good drivers as well that helped. But man, I didn't know where my entries were, but I felt like I had to have been very live before that Chastain crash. Because as you know, I don't look at them on a second by second.
I know, which I crush myself, man. I torture myself all race. It's really sad. I should do like you and just not even look until the end of the race. But I always find, listen, I'm an amateur. What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, look, to the sweats are to each his or her own. I mean, you know, whatever you enjoy, obviously keep firing in that regard or keep doing in that regard. There's a lot of subjectivity. It's on a per person basis on how you like to sweat these types of races. And this sport has more variance, I'd argue, than any sport, especially with the results.
We were strong. Like we were on Ross at 14-1 or 12-1 live in a good spot to win. But, you know, he ended up going down. I finished like top 5 in the $88 3-entry max, which was cool for the first time. But all in all, we broke even, we thought, at the end of the race. But for the first time in a long time, the car that finished in first in Denny Hamlin and the car that finished in second in Kyle Busch, they failed post-race inspection. So Draftkings paid you out on both results.
Wow.
What happened at the end of the race that we thought, and then how the order shook out post-race inspection. And like we had top Toyota finishes 1-2, and we hit top Chevy finishes 1-2 because of both results. But you really had to have your bets in at Draftkings, because if you didn't, it didn't matter that they failed post-race inspection. So we did really well because we placed the majority at Draftkings, but all in all, we pretty much broke even. But we were with you on the Chastain train for sure. But, you know, anytime you see him and Denny Hamlin next to each other, it is not going to end well this year. Period.
Yeah, and I know Hamlin ended up getting scratched from the win anyway, right? Because of
right.
But needless to say, you know, and here's the other thing. Like I was pretty over. I mean, I listened to you guys, and I got to give you guys credit. You were dead on. Fords, what a disaster in that race. I don't think a Ford was in the optimal. I don't think a Ford was even live until the Chastain nonsense. Blaney even got the benefit of the doubt with the way the cautions played out, like where he ended up getting pushed to the front because of the way the cautions timed and the way he pitted. He was right in the front, and he still found ways to get into the back despite that. And I was overweight on Blaney, so that was kind of costly as well. But he was one of the lone Fords I played because I listened to you guys. I faded everybody, Harvick, the whole bit. I know Harvick ended up T10ing, right? I think maybe.
No, Harvick was in a very good spot actually. He was the best Ford until the Hamlin Chastain incident that took him out.
Yeah, it was an interesting race to say the least. And of course, we can cue the tiny violin every week in this sport. I'm not sitting here saying, you know, this happened. That's the result of it. But you know, it's always interesting how these races play out, where it almost seems like you can get a lot of things right and still lose money. But it makes
look, like yesterday was going to be a very good day until Ross Chastain showed his ass and spun out Sheldon Creed.
I think that's what makes it interesting. Well, real quick before we go, what's your thoughts on Chastain today, Coop?
I was going to ask you. I was going to tell you, man. You have another good shot to either kick him in the nuts or he'll kick you in the nuts. One of the two.
We'll see. Let's do this. Dive into the track a bit, and then let's go into the drivers.
Like Jay said, this is the road course. It's a little over 2 miles. It's flat, has like 14 turns. Road courses this year have been very difficult to pass on. So again, track position is going to be very critical. Pit stops are going to be very critical too. They're pitting backwards of what they usually do. Even though there's only 2, you got to nail both of them. Because if the driver has an issue on one of them, it's going to be very difficult to overcome. We saw Allmendinger have one yesterday. It didn't send him way back 14th, but again, he had a couple cautions, that helped him. But you got to have your pit stops really good, man. And then the other piece is it's a strategy race. Do you pit prior to the stages? Do you pit after the stages and go for stage points? Who knows? The one kicker I think is the first stage is only 15 laps. Packrass says that you can go 35 to 39 laps. So, maybe we see more people stay out, pit differently. I don't know. It's just a lot of noise out there. There's drivers who could be racing for points. There's going to be drivers that are racing for the win. Just a lot of noise out there. And for me, I'm just going to, I can't control the strategies that these drivers, fall upon. To be quite honest with you, they might not even know what their strategy is going into the race because some of it might have to do with how their car performs and, what they think they can get out of it. So I'm just going to play the drivers who I think, are in the best situations, who have the best upside.
Yeah, and you could do much worse, right, Coop, than that strategy. I will say this on Chastain. I really don't like the spot for him today. Now, I'll say this. I did go back to Xfinity yesterday. However, before the race, I did get a little unlucky. And I don't say this often. I'm more on the other side.
You played Jeff Burton?
I'm more on the – no, I had 0% of him. But I'm more on the other side, always telling folks where I got lucky. But here's where I did get unlucky. I made all my lineups about an hour before, used the optimizers. I had 100% Chase Briscoe across 180 lineups. And I couldn't mass edit the lineups from where I was when the news came out that he was going to the back. And just kind of felt like I was hopeless in that scenario.
You did see he almost played it out perfectly though.
Yeah, he raced really well, and it makes me feel pretty confident that I was right to have him maxed out at starting from the 6th position.
Right, but you didn't see the race, did you?
I saw bits and pieces of it, and I know.
Did you see where he got penalized?
Oh, he got penalized in the race too?
Yeah, because see, like he was coming into pits, and a caution came out right when he was coming in, but he beat the caution into the pits. But unfortunately, when he did that, he was going to come out, in first place and have great track position and everything because everybody else would have had a pit. But when he came in, there's a little yellow painting on the track. It's called the commitment line. They usually have a commitment cone, and he drove over it. He had no idea that that was there, because usually it's a cone and you can visually see the cone. Well, this was a painted, brick or whatever you want to call it. And he drove right over it. He said he had no idea.
That's crazy. I'll say this, like, even if he ended up winning that race, there was just other guys that had plenty of laps led. It would have been tough to imagine he was going to be in the optimal. But
right, because of where he started. Right. Yeah.
But, it made me feel really good that owning him at 100% starting from 6, he probably wins that race yesterday. If he doesn't start from the back, he moved up the pack really well a few different times. But again, obviously it's he said, she said at this point, but you said it best. This is tough. It's tough to pass on these speedways. It will even speedways or even these regular,
right.
tracks on these road courses, it's even tougher. He was moving up and down the field with consistency.
Right. And then this whole track, it's not difficult, I think, from the driver's perspective, except for turn number 1. Like, that's where all the action is going to be. On the restarts, they go in, they get bunched up because it's a slow right-handed turn, and you see cars spin out. You could probably see cars running into each other, hurt the front end or the back end, depending upon what side they're on. And then once they do get spread out, you see drivers come into it too fast and they just completely miss the turn. All right. Or they're coming in too fast and they hit the brakes too hard and they flat spot their tires. So how your driver handles turn number 1 today is probably going to be a big indication of how they finish. AJ Allmendinger didn't get the credit he deserved for how he ran turn number 1 yesterday. At the beginning of stage 2 and at the beginning of stage 3, that's how he won that race. And then he did it from the outside on one and then from the inside on another restart. So he did it both. And what he did was incredible and showed him why he's one of the best road course drivers out there.
Yeah, he's incredible. He had an incredible race. In fact, it never really felt like he was going to lose, even at certain points where he dropped down a bit. He's just so good on these types of tracks. Anyway, before we get into your playbook, Coop, Keg, anything you like going into the race? Any thoughts going into the race? I know Chase, these are like his typical tracks, right? I think he hasn't exactly, he's been okay on these. He hasn't cashed any this year, I don't believe. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But what are your thoughts coming into the race?
Yeah, my thoughts are that this is incredibly wide open. Ford's going to be stronger than they've been the last 5 or 6 weeks today. Toyota it's a fade, complete opposite of last week. Maybe not a total fade, but they haven't really been in the top 15 in speed on road courses this year. So I would be looking to steer clear from them. Ford will be good today. And then Chevy's going to be good. Tyler Reddick looked like he was on a rocket ship. Chase Elliott is a road course king, and he's starting in row 4. He was good for anybody else's standards. He was bad for his own in practice and qualifying, but I still think he'll be a factor. And at the end of the race, he'll have something to say about the winner. But the big hurdle today is some drivers are going to race for playoff points and some are going to race for the win. And it's really hard to tell which drivers are going to do what. So, you're going to find yourself getting a little banged up, just throwing out outright flyers everywhere today. So you got to be compact. If you want to bet one outright going into the race, fine. Aside from that, it's a live betting race.
Oh, makes sense. The sport's always been, and you know this better than anybody, Jay, because you absolutely are a monster cashing in it. Live bets are always the better option with this sport. And the books have gotten more formidable on posting live lines, and that's definitely the better approach. And you'll see it as this race goes on. But good info there on the Toyota end. Cooper, we'll go into your playbook, but right before we do, guys, 150 of you watching, 37 likes.
That's worse than last week.
Not really sure what's going on here. Maybe some of you guys are being held hostage with your hands tied behind your back. I don't know how you would have actually started watching the video though in that manner, but maybe somebody else put the video on for you and you're unable to like it for whatever reason. It's kind of tough to understand why. But there's a bunch of you watching, and look, there's 150 of you watching. As we said last week we did not give Jay's bets out because we did not get to our magical 150 likes. We got a long way to go, folks. There's 150 of you watching, only 40 likes. If we get to 150 by show's end, which let's be honest, all has to happen is the folks that are watching just like the video. Jay will give out his whole card on who he likes for the bet, or who he likes for the show, for the race. And of course, you'll get all the quality information from us here. And we'll go through the DFS playbook that Coop writes up every week in an excellent manner. And of course, this is a Run Pure Sports staple, the core plays, the playbook, the Discord, things you obviously Discord's everywhere, but the core plays and playbook really separate us from the rest. And you get it all at Run Pure Sports. So, enjoy what we're going to give to you here for free. But again, you get this every day in every sport across the board at Run Pure if you're a member. Okay, so Coop, let's go into your playbook. Let's start with your dominators. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of laps here. That doesn't matter though. People are still there's still points up for grabs. Who do you like? Because the front end are typically your really good, you're really good drivers at a track like this. So who do you like to be dominators here?
So you're exactly right. There's not a lot of dominator points available, but these dominator points that are available are absolutely critical for the drivers starting up front to get them, because it helps secure any positions that are lost and then losing negative place differential points. So yes, they are minimal, but they're still, very, very important. And, for me, we got Reddick up there and we got Cindric up there. And I think those two cars were the cream of the crop of what we've seen so far this weekend. And to be honest with you, Reddick was probably a little bit more, better than Cindric. So, I definitely like the two of them. What strategy they go upon, I don't know. I don't care. I'm just going to take my shots with the two of them. Briscoe is up there too. Briscoe's the one that I'm more worried about than those two. One, he's a good road course racer, but he's shown that, hey, he's not invincible. He's had some not so great results this year. But the big thing for me with Briscoe is, as Jay alluded to earlier, we lost a bet on him last year because he had issues going into turn one. Well, those issues happened again in practice. So he clearly doesn't feel comfortable as other drivers, going into that turn. So that has me a little worried about him. So I'll be, lightweight, underweight, probably on what he's going to be, because they're all going to be popular up at the top. And then you have Chase Elliott. He had a good, practice, good qualifying, but to his standards, they weren't very good. And I think the key here is there are a couple other cars, not just one, but a couple, who can really, compete with Chase. And I think Chase is going to get better as the race goes on, because if you look at like the last 4 races that he's done, the majority of them, that's what he's done. He hasn't been great at the beginning. He wasn't great in practice and qualifying, but he slowly but surely got the car better. So I think he's going to be a factor there at the end. But, I said this earlier on another show this week, if he starts in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th position, it's really a good spot to fade him because he doesn't have a lot of upside, from the place differential points. Whereas the race earlier this year, he started in 12th or 13th, which is, almost double to what he is today. And then, like I said earlier, there's a couple cars I think that could keep him from getting those dominator points. And he has to have dominator points in order to pay off. So, I think going underweight or fading him, I'm going to fade him and take my chances because he's going to be very popular. So, can't blame you for playing him. The results are great and everything. But I'm just think he's in the perfect situation from a DFS perspective to be held out to, minimal points for him.
What's the projected ownership you think on Elliott today, Coop?
I would say 30, probably higher in the higher stakes.
What do you think?
Well, it's tough because we'll go through the slate. But it's tough. It's also tough too, right? Because are we talking tournaments, cash? I assume we're talking tournaments. Here's why it's tough. So I think 30% could be because you always got to look at who's in that price range, right? So obviously people are going to play Reddick today. So Reddick's going to take away some ownership from Chase. Chastain is likely to see ownership today.
For sure.
So I don't. I
think it all comes down to, do you play these drivers as twosomes or do you play them individually? Obviously, if you play them as twosomes, which I think a lot of people are going to do, it's going to drive the ownership on all of them up. But I don't think playing them as pairs is the way to go. We saw at the last road course race where Elliott and Reddick were in the optimal lineups, but they ran the absolutely perfect race in order for it to happen. It was just spot on, perfect. I don't think that's going to happen again today. There's a lot of different, opportunities to pit at different times. I think, these drivers up front, aren't going to just run away with it and be there. And I think one of them does, but not both of them. So I'm playing all of them individually, the ones I'm choosing from at the top.
Yeah, I think we know place differential is going to be a pretty big deal. So I
right,
think
because that's the other piece too. There's a lot out there for it, a lot of opportunity.
I think that it'd be very surprising if there's many lineups that have Reddick and Chase in them together. So when you take that as an example, you're likely going to have a lot more lineups that have guys like Larson and Chastain together for that added place differential. And if you play them two together, you really, I mean, you can still play. You technically can still play Reddick with them. Or
what do you think the most popular combo today is? Reddick Chastain.
So I think Ty Gibbs is going to be very high owned. So it's kind of, you're saying like at the top, who the biggest combo is?
Yeah.
So it'll be Cindric and somebody else, because Cindric is the cheapest of all of them, and he's the most doable.
Yeah, Cindric's easy to squeeze in. I guess the issue with Cindric is obviously at his price, at his starting position, if he does not lead laps, he's more or less going to need to T5 for it to be in an optimal. And I'd even argue at a T5, he still might not be in the optimal.
No, he's not.
So, Cindric, if Cindric can beat Reddick out of the gate, which would be hard to believe, and Cindric leads laps, I mean, yeah, there's upside there. I think that's why I think we've said this before. Like this is going to be some scattered ownership in this race. As far as where people go overweight or underweight on, I think time will tell. But it makes
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I was going to say on FanDuel, I'm more apt to play them together because finishing position is, more important than, let's say, your laps lost or your positions lost or won. So yeah, on FanDuel, I think you got to look at it a little differently.
Yeah, and that's certainly fair enough. Jay, as far as we always like to do this because obviously he gives out his dominators, and then Jay, on your end, who's your favorite guy to win this race?
Oh man, it's so tough. I'm gonna say if I had to pick two drivers today to win the race, it would be Blaney and Elliott. But Reddick and Cindric are, make no mistake, right now when they roll off the pit road, they are the two best cars in the race by a decent amount based on what we saw yesterday. But I think a lot of shit happens during a race, and I'm going to say Blaney or Elliott. In terms of, I think if you're going to bet this race, you can make a stand on one person pre-race, and then the rest you really have to bet live. You're going to want to see who's cutting through the field fast, and a huge piece of the puzzle is the first person to pit like that is, as soon as they get inside that final fuel window, because they're going to try to pit twice in this race, maybe 3 times at worst, but it's going to come down to that last pit stop, who gets in first and who has the lead. So I say I'm going in the race with Elliott, and then I'm going to play it out live. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's certainly fair enough.
Just remember, the best car usually doesn't win the race.
Right.
Okay. So, Coop, let's move over to middle tiers right now. Place differential. So this is obviously big. This race is going to be a big place differential race. Getting these guys right. Normally, this is the spot, of course, where you need at least one or two of these guys to win yourself money as an optimal. But normally, it's not. The magnifying glass isn't as strong in this section as far as you winning a lot of money. However, today, this is going to be a section you're going to have to get perfect. This is a race that's not going to have a lot of laps. This is a race that has a lot of place differential options. So, Coop, walk us through who you like here.
Yeah, there's a bunch of place differential options. And I guess, starting at the top, do we think Larson's going to be more popular, or do we think Chastain's going to be more popular? Do you play them individually? Do you play them together? How do you handle that? So both of them are going to be very, very popular. I wasn't as high on Larson to begin with, but as, last night went through and then into this morning, He's come on to me a lot more. So I do like Larson quite a bit. And then obviously I'm not worried about Ross. Ross showed earlier this year at Coda. He can start, 16th and win the race. So are either of them going to win the race? They could if everything falls right for them. And we have some crazy situations and they take advantage of them. But I think, anywhere from a top 4 to top 7 is more realistic for both of them. Then you have the other 2 HMS cars, William Byron and Alex Bowman. Bowman got some laps in yesterday, which is a plus. Bowman's a sneaky road course driver, keeps the car clean, works his way up, has some outside top 10 finishes. And then Byron, is just the opposite, where he's showed a lot of speed on road courses in the past, and he's just been at the wrong place at the wrong time, and the results aren't nearly as good for him. So I think both of them are going to run better than what they practiced and qualified. Eric Jones is in here too, starting 35th, and he's going to be a big play. This isn't a race where you can start in the back and just magically work your way up really quickly. It's going to take some time. Would I be surprised if Eric Jones finishes 25th? No. Do I think his upside is probably 18th, 19th, 20th? Yeah. Don't be playing Jones and expecting him to, top 10 this race. Just be realistic with it. Don't go crazy with him because I wouldn't be surprised, if he finishes 25th, 26th, 27th and doesn't pay out. So, but you definitely got to have some of them. There's a couple other drivers in there off the top of my head I'm missing. Austin Dillon, same way with Jones. Actually, he's in the value section. But anyways, he's the same way as what I have with Jones. Are you looking at it? Who else do I have in there?
Yeah, have it in front of me. So did you mention Bowman, Byron?
Yeah.
Ty Gibbs?
Yeah, Ty Gibbs is going to be a very popular play. Definitely have some Ty Gibbs. But again, he doesn't have a lot of experience in this car. He's a very good road course driver. And then we have question marks about how fast the car really is. I think
he's Toyota.
Yeah, a top 15 finish would be very, very good for him. I think some people were expecting him to come out and maybe qualify in the top 10 yesterday, and it didn't happen. So I look for Ty Gibbs to log laps, to try to keep the car clean and have a solid finish. Where that ends up, whether it be 20th or 15th, I'm not sure. Would it be surprised if he ends up 26th where he starts? Not a doubt. So all these guys, I think, except for Larson and Chastain, could finish where they start. And then also they could finish, 10 to 15 spots above where they start too.
Yeah, I
just
think,
chances. You got to tear them out differently, take chances.
Yeah, I think you have to fade some high owned place differential guys today. There's just no way around it. Now, as far as what I'm personally doing with Chastain, I am very likely fading him completely today. Not because I don't think he can race well. I watched bits and pieces of the race yesterday. I felt like things really broke well for him in that race. Now, here, again, though, this is coming from somebody that fades him most weeks. And again, I'm just fading him in relation to optimals. Obviously, if you played him in cash, I'm sure he's made you a lot of money this year. But obviously,
let me ask you,
where does he have to finish to pay off?
I'll be honest, it's not so much where he has to finish.
Yeah.
It's more who he has to outscore. So for one thing, he's going to have to outscore Larson. So let's just start checking the boxes off, right? He's going to have to outscore Larson because it's very unlikely that a lineup has both of them in it if neither of them win the race. So assuming neither of them win the race, which they both can, but if neither of them win the race, one's going to obviously outscore the other. So he's got to outscore Larson, in my opinion, at minimum. Then he's going to have to hope that laps led is not primarily split between 2 or 3 lead drivers. Like laps led can't be split between guys like Reddick and Cindric or Elliott and Reddick or any guys near the front like Briscoe. Now, granted, there is some added benefit if he gets himself to the front and he leads some laps because he does have the place differential behind him as well. But again, you're not getting him at a discount here. It's not like he's like priced cheap where it's like, okay, well, he can be formidable enough. And so to answer your question, where he has to finish, I think it's more or less who he has to outscore. And the people he has to outscore for me don't necessarily outweigh his price. I can get Larson at 200 cheaper, starting from a position behind. So I will likely I'll be likely to lock in Larson and fade Chastain today. Now, granted, that could backfire on me, but again, it at least gives me some leverage, because again, a lot of these guys are going to be super high owned. So you got to pick spots where you're going to fade one and heavily play the other. And that's likely the direction I'm going. It has nothing to do with that I think Chastain's going to race poorly. This is a pricing thing, and based on pricing, who's around him, I feel like in tournaments, you have to fade either Chastain or Larson, because to me, Coop, and I'm interested in your thoughts here, it's hard to fathom an optimal with both of them in it.
I think there's probably.
Let me make that a little more clear. It's hard to fathom an optimal both of them in it if neither wins the race.
I think that 20% chance that there is. And I say that because, like, if we have various pit stops, various different leaders, and they do their job and finish fifth and fourth, it all depends upon who finishes in front of them. You know, if it's, let's say if it's Kevin Harvick and Daniel Suarez and Chris Buescher, definitely I think they could be in the optimal.
Yeah, I think of course we could walk through various scenarios where it'll work and where it won't work. I think overall, the idea of them T5ing is still tough to imagine that both of them combined are in the optimal, because if they T5, they very likely didn't lead a lot of laps collectively. So whoever was in the front probably led laps seemingly, and again, if you play 3 10K drivers, you have to play bottom of the wheelbarrow guys with them. And there's, these tracks often don't have as many cautions as the other tracks. So you're likely going to need a few of the 7K-ish guys. And if you play 3 10K guys, you really can't play a lot of 7Ks. So you're going to have to play 6K-ish guys, at least one or two.
A couple things. One, if I'm playing both of them together, I'm not playing Cindric, I'm not playing Reddick, I'm not playing Elliott, and I'm not playing Briscoe or Bell. I'm playing them with other place differential drivers, hoping for chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I think that right there is going to make it different, because I think a lot of people are going to play, when they play the two of them together, they're going to play them with one of the aforementioned drivers I mentioned, which is going to really eliminate, who you compare them with down at the bottom. Whereas if you play the two of them together without any of them, you have a whole slew of different drivers you can play in the mid-range with them. And then the other piece I was going to ask you, what are you going to do with Martin Truex? Because I think even though Toyota stinks, he's starting 25th. He's going to get some ownership. He's going to take more ownership away from Chastain and Larson than what you think it might.
He will 100% have ownership, and I will 100% fade. If he beats me, he beats me.
Marty's in the grave this week, bro.
Right. Like, I don't think Marty can top 10.
Yeah.
I think a lot of craziness would have to happen for Marty to top 10.
And remember, another thing, Coop, you're not getting him at a discount. Like, I get it. He's got the place differential upside, but to me, he doesn't have much win equity. And you're just not getting him at a great price. Again, you play him. That means you really think about it. He's 1,000. He's not even 1,000 less cheaper than Chastain and Larson. So I think
a lot of people are going to play him.
I agree. He's going to see ownership today. He's going to have to see ownership today. But again, that's going to be one of the guys I take a stand on. He beats me. So be it.
Yep.
All right. So moving on. But before we do, let's get a quick like check. We are at exactly 100. 227 of you watching. Let's get 50 more so we can get you a few more. So we can get you some bets for today. I'm sure you all want some bets today, some action. We all have some degen in us. Just get us 50 more likes, folks. There's 230 of you. I'm pretty sure 50 of you can somehow find the like button. I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm sure some of you can find it. And also subscribe to this channel as well if you have not already. Not sure what you're waiting for. Okay, so let's move on. So Coop, obviously we only have about 20 minutes left. So middle tier drivers, I often say this is where races are run and won and lost. And now, interestingly enough, I see my boy RB in here. Blaney is a guy that I have gotten wrong all season long, and that has more to do with the fact that I consistently play him when I feel like people aren't. It's another slate where he is a tough guy to feel good about slotting in your lineups. But to me, again, that's where I'm going to be different. To me, I'm okay consistently being wrong on Blaney because the last time I was right on Blaney, he won me a lot of money on this specific type of course or track. So because he was in that optimal. Now here, I don't think he's going to see much ownership, and to me, I'm going to be overweight on Blaney again. If he fucks me, he fucks me.
And he's live today for sure.
And I'll be honest, he was live last week. I felt he got into the accident, which sucked. But either way, Coop, what are your thoughts here? And give me some good news on Blaney.
So Brian Blaney is probably the most intriguing driver on this entire slate. He starts in 6th, which is kind of no man's land. And with his price, he doesn't have a lot of upside from the place differential points, but he has more downside from losing them. He's been consistent all year long on these road courses. And I know for one thing today, Ryan Blaney will race the optimal strategy to win because points don't matter to him. He needs to win. The piece that I'm like, is Ryan Blaney going to be 8% owned or is he going to be 15 to 17% owned? I'm much more likely to take a shot at him if he's going to be the 8%. But if I think more people jump on him and he becomes higher owned than what he really should be, then I think fade him because you're going to probably be on the right side of it because everything's got to work out perfectly for this guy. He's got to have great pit stops. The pit team's better than what it was before, but it's still not, incredible. And then, he's got to beat some fast cars. Like he hasn't shown the top line speed. So I think everything's got to be, perfect for him. I see the reasons of why to play him, but if he does come in and like people like us, kind of maybe drive that ownership from 8 or 10% to 12 to 15%, I might want to stay off of him because I think you can get that edge again. The driver I do really like in here, though, is cover your ears, Jay, is Kevin Harvick.
Imagine, KJ, he puts Happy in a box every week. Every week.
I can't. You know what it is? I can't bury him either because guess who else was in my optimal when I won it?
Yeah. Listen. We have some Happy Harvick action.
So I was, all year, like Jay said, I buried him. I buried him actually since the beginning of last year, saying he'll never win again. I haven't bet him a lot. I pick my spots here and there with him, and I think this is a good spot for him. I think, what really impressed me was last week, he practiced and qualified horrible. And usually when he does that, that's how he runs. And he usually relies on other people's mistakes to gain his spots. Last week, they made that car better. And that was, a positive for me and really big. And he's been solid on road courses all year. And he needs to win. He's not running for any points. He's going to take the optimal strategy. And he says he has a fast car. And Childress says he has a fast car. So I'm going to take my shots on Kevin Harvick. And I think he's going to do a lot better than what people might realize. So I like him. The other driver in here is Chris Buescher. He's going to get a lot of ownership. Solid price. He's done very good on road courses this year. But I think I'm staying away because since his team's been on suspension, he's lost his momentum. They haven't had good results. Pit stops are key here, so they're not going to have their best. Which, look, it's all, again, noise with pit stops. Good teams can have bad pit stops. Bad teams can have great pit stops. All you have is the numbers to go by and what it, says on average of what they do. But I think Buescher is a solid fade. I think, I would rather fade him and take my chances at some of the place differential guys because I know he's going to be popular and he's going to be keyed in with a lot of them. Another fade for me in this range is Suarez. Suarez has been really good on road courses, and he has to get up to 4th. And he's one of the reasons why Brian Blaney should be really low owned. Because I think a lot of people are going to click on Suarez because he has more starting position upside. And they're going to look at him as having more win potential than what Brian Blaney does. And they're right priced next to each other. And Blaney's priced on the other side of somebody else. I can't think of it on the top of my head. It's really should drive his ownership low, which is, if it stays low, I really like Brian Blaney. But Suarez, I think, has a good car, but I think he's going to finish 5th, 6th, 7th. And if he does that, he's not going to pay off because, as JJ mentioned at the beginning of the show, his price now is something that you have to consider. He's not 7-8, 7-9 no more. And a lot of people are going to play him. So, Truax is a good fade for me to save some ownership, and then Busher and Suarez.
What are your thoughts on some of those comments there, Jay? Because there was a lot Coop went through there. I will say this: on the Suarez end, I can never fade him at these types of tracks. However, Coop brings up a really good point. His price is a lot. This is probably the most expensive he's been on one of these tracks. This might actually be his highest price all season. It probably is. That has to get taken into account.
And I don't think a lot of people are going to take that into account. They're just going to say, "Oh man, look at this guy's results. I got to play him," and not realize what he was before price-wise versus now.
Yeah, his odds, his starting position. He's definitely going to see more ownership than Blaney. And
who's the other Robert Price right below him, or right below Blaney and Suarez?
Cindric. So
yeah, right, exactly. So
Briscoe.
That's why Blaney is a great play.
Yeah,
I think that Trackhouse is really intriguing because they have been so strong on road courses. Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain have been so good on road courses this year, but there were a decent amount of cars that looked better than them. But like Coop says, they normally don't qualify anywhere near as well as they tend to run. So I expect Suarez and Chastain to be strong. I don't know if they are going to be in those top three top 3 cars speed-wise that really contend for the win at the end. I don't know if they're going to be there, but I do expect them to be strong. And if it broke right for them, I think Suarez and Chastain could win this race just based on what they've shown us this year, speed-wise on road tracks. But I think that they're an interesting pivot point in how this slate is going to go, how good these Trackhouse cars really are today.
Yeah, and even a name that hasn't been mentioned as much on this show. I mean, you mentioned it, Coop, at the front of it, but like Chase Briscoe just seems like the guy left out. Like the guy left out that's really good on these tracks. The guy's price is not that high. If he can just sneak to the front early somehow and lead laps.
Could have won this race last year, Jay. Car was incredibly strong. And he's in a fast whip today, so he could win this race, no doubt.
If he's smart, he watched what AJ Allmendinger did yesterday on one of his restarts, and he'll, try to perform that on the opening act of the race.
You look at Briscoe's price. He's normally a lower 8, high 7K guy, but it wouldn't be crazy that he could if he T3s here. He's likely in the optimal if he T3s here at this price. Now, granted, obviously that's a bit of an ask, but if he happens to magically do any better than that, he's definitely going to be in the optimal. So just something to consider. All right, so let's move on. Where we at with likes? Only 115, guys. 35 more. Jay will get you all his play cards. We only got about 10, 15 minutes left in the show, so pick up the pace. 35 likes, folks. All right, let's go through Value Town, last section here. Guys, obviously, for where we can find value on winning. And I do see my boy Kez here. I will certainly be overweight on Kez today. I don't know if he'll bang me here. Obviously, at 12th, he's going to need a T10 finish, which might ask a lot, but his price is not asking a lot. What are your thoughts here on some of these guys? Because, yeah, there's some interesting names in this list.
So on paper, Dillon and Stenhouse are the chalk plays. I don't know how much upside either one of them really has. Ricky starting 38th. I think a great race for him would be a 25th place finish. I think his selling, and if everything went perfect for him, would be 18th to 20th. But I think he's more than likely to finish 24th to 26th plus. So I'll have some Ricky in GPPs, but not a lot. Same way with Austin Dillon. I think his upside is similar to what Stenhouse's is. The drivers I really like are Cole Custer, who's qualified well and practiced well at these road courses, but hasn't raced as well. We know that Stewart-Haas has a little bit better car than what they have had. So I think he can come in and do a good job for you at a moderate ownership. And then Justin Haley. I think starting position is going to keep people away from him. Starts 17th, but he's learning from the best in AJ Allmendinger. His pit crew sucks, though. So there is some scare on playing him, but not many people are going to play him, so you don't have to play a bunch of them. And then we have Joey Hand. Joey Hand is a very good road course driver. Joey Hand has shown that he can make this car faster than what others are when they're driving it. He had very good speed at the other road courses. What hurt Joey Hand at the other road courses was where he started. He started in like 13th, 14th, 15th. His pit crew sucks. All right. And he's going to lose spots on the pit crew, which is what happened during those races. But now that he's starting 27th, he's not going to lose all them pit spots because he's going to be against teams that are similar to what, he is from a pit stop team quality wise. So I think if we have a long run at the end, and let's say he comes out 25th, 26th, I think he can gain a couple spots on the end and end up finishing around the top 20 at what should be fairly low ownership. But as Jay said, I really like Keselowski. Starts 12th. And when you look at the drivers that are around him, you have Austin Dillon, you have Eric Jones, you have Michael McDowell, all drivers that I think are going to be clicked before Brad Keselowski. Keselowski showed some solid speed. His teammate Buscher showed some solid speed in prior road courses. So, while Keselowski isn't a horrible road course driver, he's not a stud by any means either. And he's definitely somebody I'm going to take some shots on because he only needs a 10th place finish to, pay out.
There is a lot of names in this area that will make a lot of sense to play. There's a lot of names in here that are going to see ownership. People might consider Ricky Stenhouse a free square at his price. Man, he just seems like he doesn't. It seems like he doesn't do well in these types of races ever.
Doesn't.
So maybe attrition helps him, but let's be honest. When it comes to attrition and Ricky Stenhouse, he's usually part of the attrition.
But he doesn't create it as much as what people say.
That's fair.
So, one thing I've been sitting here thinking about, like this race compared to the other road course races, is like the last time we saw a lot of the drivers that were starting 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th in that ballpark, like the McDowells, the Buschers, a lot was driven about, track position is so important. So we saw more ownership on them. But what's different is this race has a lot more place differential upside than what those other road course races presented. So it's going to be interesting to see, do people revert back to place differential, or do people, really look at the track position and say it's key and continue to pound like a Buscher or a McDowell who are starting in good spots?
I think for me, so McDowell, I'm definitely going to have a bit of, I feel like I must have to. These races where it's tough to pass, I like playing the cheaper guys.
What are you doing with Joey Logano today? JJ, I'm asking.
Yeah, Coop, you answer first. I don't want people to feel like I'm.
Oh, I don't have any Logano.
You're not going to have him at all, Coop?
No, none.
Logano is a so I say this all the time, right? Like I don't mind playing Logano when he starts this high. I mind playing Logano when he's 10th plus or worse. I don't. He's just a tough guy to figure out in various ways.
Yes.
And this is not his type of like. I don't consider this like his best type of track by any means. But
he plays the strategy well here. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, let's see where he's priced around. So he's around, I mean, he's
cheap.
It was 8K.
Yeah.
So inevitably, I'm going to have ownership on Logano. I don't like the fact that I'm going to, but again, these types of tracks where it's tough to pass, he's 8K, which to me means even if he accidentally T3s, he's in the optimal.
Make it. Right.
He's in the optimal. So, yeah, I don't love Logano. This isn't a spot where I would market myself as like, yeah, this is a great spot for him, but it's all price, right? These things are all price based. I don't even know what his win equity is. Like his win equity is what? It actually can't be terrible. Less than 20 to 1. Yeah, 20 to 1. So, yeah, again, I don't love it by any means. I will not have a lot of Joey Logano, but I will definitely be over the field on Joey Logano. I pretty much at his price. Actually, people might play him, Coop, at his price. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if people played him at this price. It's the cheapest, got to be cheapest he's been all year, right?
To be honest with you, I think he's safer than a Briscoe.
Interesting. Okay.
He's definitely
from a price perspective.
Cheapest he's been all year for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to the pricing. Yeah, by far cheapest he's been all year. He doesn't get you any place differential, but I don't mind that either, Coop. I mean, that he might be safer than Briscoe, but I mean, again, Briscoe's not that expensive. So, yeah, I don't mind it. I definitely, to answer your question, Jay, yes, I'll have Logano ownership today.
Yeah.
What about Bell?
Christopher Bell is a Toyota, right?
Yeah, but he was the one Toyota that looked wicked fast. Like he was fastest in like 5 and 10 lap average in practice. But yes, historically this year for sure, they have not been very good, but he was the one bright spot for Toyota in practice.
Yeah, so I guess I'll have to, with that in mind, I'll have to have some Bell, but I will probably, he's not going to see a ton of ownership anyway, but I'll probably be somewhat at the field with Bell.
I think he's going to see more than what you think.
Well, here's the thing, Coop, he's 86, he's in 4th. I would figure anybody who wants to play him will play Logano instead. I guess, when I say ownership, I'd be shocked if in the $15 he saw more than 8-9%. I'd be shocked. I mean, he could.
He'll crush that. He'll crush that.
I will lock him in if he's that low.
He'll crush that.
He's got legitimate win equity, like legit
20% plus.
So just I guess so. I'll be honest, guys. If he's going to be 20%. I might be forced to fade. So the reason being for me is where he's priced in between. And if we're talking win equity, right? So for $200 more, Briscoe's got better win equity.
He's got, probably.
For $600 less, Logano has not much less win equity. I don't mind. I think he's decent. I just think if you guys are confident he's going to be 20%, and you guys very well might be right. To me, I
would argue back that Chris Bell has more win equity than Chase Briscoe. If you look at what Chris Bell has done this year, like Chris Bell could have won 3 or 4 races and it's all big if he didn't make a bad decision, if his pit crew didn't fuck him, and other things, man.
He's been the second.
He's been a very, very fast car all
the last 4. Yeah. The last 4 or 5 weeks, other than Chase Elliott, he has been the second best car consistently week in and week out. I agree there. Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely can argue. I guess for me, so we've had the 2 most recent races was the Quick Trip and the Toyota.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't look good in either of those races. And
I will bet you Jay's left arm and right arm that he's 20% or higher.
Well, I like my arms. Let's leave me out of this, first of all.
You know what it is for me? It's like, and again, you guys could be 100% right. I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I more or less try to. It's hard because you have your own biases when you go into trying to project your own flavors of what ownership's going to look like.
Right, and we could be wrong too.
Yeah, I think for me, Bell, a guy that in both of these races that I've been a part of, he has had place differential equity at more or less the same price he is now. And he's looked terrible in both races. Now, granted, there might be anomalies. There may have been reasons for it. But now he's starting higher, much higher. His price is about the same. His win equity is about what it was in those races. Like I said, it becomes a tough. And then, of course, we have the own bias of this show and the Toyotas being slow on these tracks.
You think he has more win equity than Reddick and Cinder?
Well, I mean, last week he finished fourth. The week before that, he won, Jay. I mean,
I'm talking these tracks.
Okay.
So on these tracks, the last two that I've been a part of, he's looked terrible. Now, again, that doesn't.
Oh yeah, I agree totally.
That doesn't mean he won't be great today. He could be, but as we know, these tracks play a little different. And now he's not getting. Now he has no place differential upside. So yeah, if
look, I'm not playing Chris Bell. I'm just making a point for him. All right,
Jay,
in real life.
Did you just see what just happened? Coop was basically like
he was going to the mattresses on a guy who's not going to play.
I'm saying he's defending a guy he's not going to play at all.
I'm not. I'm just telling you, man. That's how you got to look at it, man. Like it could happen. It could be screwed, man. He could screw me. He can screw me. You got to look at it from both sides.
I'm the DFS novice. I ask questions to learn.
It's a good point, though, Coop. And you're completely right there. Regardless whether you like a driver or not, you still have to look at things objectively. He very well could see 20% ownership today, maybe even higher. I'm talking the big tournament, by the way. I'm not talking cash. I'm talking the big 15.
If he's 20% owning cash, I want to play him.
If he's 20% in the $15, and as I go through my final research here in the last hour, I will 100% fade him on this slate. So if he beats me, he beats me. But if he's 20%, this guy has shown nothing on these tracks this year. And if he's going to be 20%, yeah,
that means you got to fade Logano too.
Yeah, well, I guess it comes down to it. Like I truly think no one's going to have Logano. So if Logano's going to be 15%, I might have to add him to the fade list. So it really goes down to where you're going to find your own leverage spots. And look, obviously we're not always going to be right. We're going to be wrong plenty. I could be wrong on Bell. Bell could win this thing wire to wire and stick it right up my ass. But it looks like we're in agreement. So I know we've kind of talked around a few different points, but it looks like nobody on this show is going to play Bell. So now, granted, he may do well, but it looks like we're all collectively taking.
Donkey's going to play Chase Elliott.
What happened?
You're going to play Chase Elliott?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have Chase. He may screw me here, but you know what it is? At least this is a guy that has a track record, no pun intended, at least of doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Like on these.
He's the ticket I'm going to have in my pocket.
Hey, whatever y'all do, make sure you have a certain amount of lineups, like 15, 10%, 20% at most of whatever you feel comfortable with. Like with no Reddick, no Briscoe, no Cindric, none of them drivers, because like I said, the road courses have been pure so far this year. And you're usually not. You see usually a lot of little chaos here. It's easy to lose track position because you don't have a lot of cautions to make up. And then you have the spin outs, which create those and keep the yellow flags from popping out. We haven't seen a lot of strategy play out in these, road course races. So I expect to see some, different type of chaos today than what we have seen.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of scatterness, and I think taking stands in your own directions. And to Coop's point, have multiple lineups. If there's one sport where it makes sense to run multiple lineups, I'll be honest. God bless the folks that play cash in NASCAR. Like God bless you guys, because you're really playing the same guys everybody else is, and you're just hoping that. And if you're not, you're just hoping for accidents, which is kind of crazy in cash.
Jay, do you play cash?
Me, I only play. I play single entries and like 3 entry max and stuff like that.
Both of you should play cash, because
I say that
shocked. You would be shocked at some of the drivers you see.
It's a good
lineups
because the fields are so spread out. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong in terms of thinking that people aren't going to play the guys you should be playing in cash in NASCAR. But that's actually a good point, Coop. All right, so guys, that wraps up the show. Overall, Coop, maybe final notes. Some guys are fading. Obviously, we went over the time here, so we'll just try to wrap the show up.
Kevin Harvick Day. Let's roll.
Awesome,
All
Jay.
right. Plays. We giving out plays real quick.
Jay, we got to one. What did we get to? 132. Give out one total play, not everything. One total play that we.
All right.
We can't get to 150 likes.
So close to like last week too.
We can't get to 150. But
All right. So on DraftKings, there's a Ford finish 1-2 at 5-1. I'm going to be on that. I think that's worth betting. I'll give that out.
Ford finish 1-2. What was the odds on that? +5, you said?
Yeah, 5-1. That Ford finishes 1-2 on DraftKings.
Love it.
I think that's pretty solid. If you can't get that, I would say Ryan Blaney top Ford at 4-1.
I like it.
Would be
I
my.
have a great bet.
I
love
like
that bet.
it.
I can't believe you're not following it.
I like it, but I'm biased. I feel like I'm in Blaney's corner every week.
Oh, Coop's got a good bet too. Under 10.5. I'm going to tail him on that. The
Winning car.
The winning car number under 10.5 -105. That gives you, Chastain, Cindric, Harvick, Larson, Elliott, and who's in the 8? Reddick. So that you 6 guys right there.
Keselowski too, Jay.
And Keselowski, 6 guys.
Let's not forget about that monster Todd Gillian.
Yeah. Oh, Corey LaJoy too.
Yeah.
Want me
you get the Gillian shares as well, which always holds value.
Yeah, and I'm going into the race with Elliott, and I'll live bet accordingly. That's where I'm at.
All right, folks. So the show is over. Thank you all for cooperating. And one real quick point. So best ball underdog. We are a few short weeks away from training camp and the start of NFL. Promo code RunPure at underdog.com gets you $100 deposit match bonus up to $100. So head over there, especially if you're playing best ball. It's a free $100. Why waste it? Folks, thank you always for watching this show, and thank you for being very interactive in the comments. Always much love for all you. Race starts in an hour, so be sure to start building your lineups, and hopefully this content was helpful for you. I can't imagine it was not, but who knows? Either way, thank you all for watching. Be sure to gamble, or should I say crush responsibly. Stay safe, and as always, run pure, folks. Simon, let's get out of here.